What did a home look like in the 1970s? Well, there was shag carpet under your feet, wood paneling on the walls, and a console stereo humming in the corner. Long before open floor plans and stainless steel kitchens, homes were cozy, personal, and full of life. Today, let's step back and remember the decor that made them unforgettable. Step into the living room of the 1970s and your feet immediately sink into a world of texture. Shag carpeting. Thick, soft, and almost alive, it was the kind of carpet that swallowed socks, toys, and small pets if you weren't careful. Advancements in synthetic fibers made it affordable, and suddenly every home in America wanted that plush, groovy look. But here's the funny part. Keeping it clean required more than a vacuum. You actually had to rake it. Families owned little plastic carpet rakes just for fluffing up those long strands. And if you ever dropped a pin or the back of an earring, forget it. You'd find it sometime next Christmas. Do you remember having shag carpet in your house? Maybe even the rake that came with it. If the carpet didn't catch your attention, the walls surely did. Wallpaper in the 1970s wasn't shy. It screamed. Bold geometric prints, oversized florals, and sprawling botanical patterns covered every inch. Orange, mustard yellow, avocado green. It was a visual feast of earthy warmth. Some homes even carried the wallpaper right across the ceiling. Imagine lying on the couch and looking up to see swirling vines above your head. In the 70s, subtlety wasn't the goal. You wanted your guests to feel your personality as soon as they stepped in. These patterns reflected the era's escape from the sterile conformity of the 50s. After 2 decades of perfect little suburbs, people were ready to rebel, even if that rebellion came in the form of orange wallpaper and velvet drapes. In most homes, the centerpiece wasn't the couch or even the fireplace, it was the television. By the early 70s, color TVs were everywhere, and they weren't just appliances, they were furniture. The console TV sat proudly in the middle of the living room, encased in polished wood to match your other decor. On top of it, you'd likely find framed family photos, maybe a doily and a few knickknacks from a vacation to Niagara Falls. A decent 21-inch color console cost about $500 back then, roughly $3,500 today. It was a serious investment, and families gathered around it like a shrine. Saturday nights meant The Carol Burnett Show or All in the Family. The glow of that screen lit up the room, and sometimes the whole block. It wasn't just entertainment, it was connection, and somehow everyone fit on one couch to watch. Not far from the TV stood another monument to 70s design, the console stereo. These weren't small gadgets, they were furniture. Long, heavy cabinets of walnut or cherry veneer, hiding a turntable, radio tuner, and even an 8-track player under a hinged lid that opened like the hood of a car. You could lift that top, drop the needle on a record, and fill the whole house with the sound of Fleetwood Mac or Neil Diamond. The speakers were built right into the cabinet, covered by woven fabric that looked stylish even when no music was playing. For many families, the console stereo wasn't just about music. It was about mood. You'd turn it on while cleaning the house, hosting a party, or simply to enjoy the hum of the world spinning under that diamond stylus. Some homes even went a step further and bought an organ. Yes, I know, a full electric organ, sitting right there in the living room. It was the perfect mix of aspiration and novelty. In malls across America, stores like Lowry Organs had salesmen playing cheerful tunes to lure customers inside. Many families brought one home, even if no one really knew how to play it. But it didn't matter. The organ represented something pure about that time. The belief that a family home could be a place of music, creativity, and joy. And even when it sat unused, it looked impressive, with all its colorful buttons glowing like a spaceship dashboard. Feeling that 70s vibe again? Tap hype and help us keep these memories alive for everyone who still remembers. Now, if you really wanted to impress your neighbors, you went for the ultimate 70s living room feature, the conversation pit. Unlike a simple sunken living room, this was a pit. Several steps down, lined with cushions and a low coffee table or fireplace at the center. It was made for gatherings, laughter, and those long late-night talks over fondue and record players. Conversation pits symbolized connection, literally sinking in with your guests. But they weren't without risk. Kids fell in, pets jumped out, and anyone carrying a cocktail was one misstep away from disaster. Still, they embodied what the 70s did best, making social life the heart of the home. If you grew up in the 1970s, you probably remember that every piece of furniture seemed to serve more than one purpose. Back then, homes weren't about perfection. They were about practicality. Everything had to work hard and look cozy while doing it. Every family had one, the hide-a-bed couch. By day, it looked like any ordinary sofa, usually covered in scratchy fabric that seemed to survive nuclear war. But at night, it could transform, sometimes with a heroic tug and a few grunts, into a bed for visiting relatives. You'd unfold that metal frame, hear it creak, and lay down a thin mattress that felt like it had more springs than padding. It wasn't exactly luxury, but it meant family could stay over. Nobody complained. Not even Uncle Joe, who somehow always got stuck on the middle bar. And draped across the back? The granny square Afghan, bright, handmade, and itchy as wool socks in July. Those blankets were the unofficial comforters of the decade. They didn't match anything, yet somehow fit right in with the orange and brown world around them. Did you ever sleep on one of those hide-a-beds? Or under a granny square Afghan your grandmother made? If the hide-a-bed was about family, modular furniture was about freedom. The 1970s loved anything that could be rearranged, reinvented, or reimagined. Sectional pieces could be lined up in a curve, stacked into a pit, or separated to form islands of conversation. For young couples and single city dwellers, this was a dream. You could change the entire look of your living room without buying new furniture. Just move a few pieces around. Some brands even leaned into the era's playful side, like the Playpen line of modular seating, which was marketed with a wink and a grin. The ads made sure you knew. These weren't your parents' couches. The fabrics were bold: burnt orange, mustard yellow, avocado, and sometimes even white vinyl. Every shape was soft, low to the ground, and unapologetically funky. If you fell asleep there after a long night, you basically melted into the furniture. And that was the point. No living room was complete without Dad's chair. Usually it was a brown or olive green recliner with deep creases, the kind that made a signature whoosh sound when you pulled the lever. Nobody else dared sit in it. It was sacred territory. That chair had seen it all. Football games, Sunday naps, late-night news, and the occasional scolding of a misbehaving kid. Some even had a built-in ashtray or a side pocket for the TV guide. It was comfort in its purest form, and proof that in the 70s, furniture wasn't designed to look perfect, it was designed to be lived in. If you've ever walked into a house and immediately spotted Dad's chair, you knew who ruled the room. Over in the corner, standing proudly against the paneled wall, was the home organ. Even if no one in the house could actually play, having one made you feel cultured. A little classy, a little modern. Mall stores like Lowry Organs or Hammond often had friendly salesmen in suits playing cheerful tunes to lure families inside. Kids loved pressing all the buttons that lit up like Christmas lights, while parents imagined themselves entertaining guests on a Saturday night. The truth? Most of those organs ended up as very expensive decorations, but they gave the living room personality, a dash of ambition, and a hint of optimism. And when someone did know how to play, the entire house filled with the warm, slightly warbly sound of electric pipes and built-in rhythm beats. It was imperfect, human, and unforgettable. What made 1970s furniture special wasn't how stylish it looked. It was how alive it felt. Every piece told a story. The hide-a-bed where cousins spent the night, the recliner where Dad watched the moon landing rerun, the Afghan your grandmother crocheted while watching The Lawrence Welk Show. The 70s home didn't try to impress strangers. It wrapped around you like a familiar song. Every creak, every pattern, every thread carried memories. And if you thought the living room furniture was wild, wait until you see what happened when 1970s design made its way into the bathroom. A place where no surface was safe from creativity. If there's one room that truly captured the fearless spirit of 1970s decor, it was the bathroom. Because in that decade, nothing was off limits. Not even the toilet. Step inside and you're immediately met with colors so bold they'd make a rainbow blush. The walls might be papered in orange tulips or lime green stripes. The sink? Probably avocado. The tub? Maybe baby blue. And the toilet? It matched perfectly. The 70s didn't believe in neutral tones. Bathrooms were a continuation of the home's personality. Cheerful, cozy, and unapologetically colorful. Yes, you heard that right. Carpeted bathrooms. Because apparently cold tile floors were simply too depressing for a decade that believed comfort belonged everywhere, even under your bare feet when you stepped out of the tub. At first, it seemed like a good idea. Keep your toes warm and your space stylish. But the 70s never stopped at moderation. Soon, carpet wasn't just on the floor. It crept up onto the toilet lid, the tank, even the sides of the tub. There were matching sets, a fuzzy rug, a seat cover, and a tank topper, often all in the same shade of peach, mint, or harvest gold. The result? A bathroom that looked less like a washroom and more like the inside of a custom van. Maintaining it, of course, was another story. Between humidity, spills, and, well, accidents, that plush flooring didn't age gracefully. But for a moment in time, it was luxury. The kind you could feel between your toes. Every family had one. The soft, fuzzy toilet lid cover that turned an ordinary seat into a work of art. Or horror, depending on your taste. Some had ruffles, some were shag, some even came with embroidered flowers or lace trim. And of course, they had to match the rug around the toilet, the tank cover, and the little lid topper. The coordination was impressive, and hilarious in hindsight. You could walk into 10 different homes in 1976 and instantly spot that fuzzy toilet lid in at least half of them. It was more than decor. It was a badge of pride. It said, "We care about design." Everywhere. When you think about it, that's the 70s in a nutshell. Equal parts daring and domestic. Nothing in a 1970s bathroom was plain white. Bathtubs came in pastel pink, sky blue, avocado green, or even chocolate brown. Sinks matched. Countertops matched. Even the towels were color coordinated. Avocado and gold were the undisputed kings of the color palette. Pink bathrooms were also everywhere thanks to the lingering influence of mid-century optimism. The result was a room that felt cheerful, warm, and personal. Like you were bathing inside a sunset. Homeowners wanted their bathrooms to feel inviting, even glamorous. And for a short while, they succeeded. Until one day, someone realized that cleaning a green tub wasn't as easy as it looked. Colored toilet paper, the final touch. Soft pink, mint green, baby blue. You could buy rolls to perfectly match your tiles, towels, and rugs. It sounds crazy now, but it made perfect sense then. The 70s were about harmony and expression. Why should toilet paper be white when your whole bathroom was coral? But the trend didn't last. By the late 1980s, health concerns and environmental awareness started rolling in. Doctors warned that the dyes could cause irritation, and septic systems didn't appreciate the extra chemicals. Slowly, the rainbow disappeared from the bathroom aisle, leaving us with the plain white rolls we know today. Still, for those who remember, colored toilet paper was a symbol of just how far the 70s were willing to go for style. Looking back, the 1970s bathroom feels like a perfect snapshot of the decade itself. Warm, experimental, and a little outrageous. It was an age when people weren't afraid to try something new, even if it meant carpeting the floor next to the shower. Every fuzzy rug, every colored fixture, every pastel roll of toilet paper told the same story. This was a time when comfort met creativity. Even if it didn't always make sense, it always made you feel something. And really, that's what home was all about. Be honest. Would you ever carpet your bathroom again if you could? But the 1970s didn't stop decorating once the walls were tiled. Because just outside that bathroom door, the home became an art gallery, filled with clocks, string art, and one unforgettable owl made of macramé. By the mid-1970s, the average American home didn't have blank walls. Every inch, from the hallway to the living room, was covered in something. Art, clocks, weather stations, macramé, string art, sconces, you name it. If it could hang, the 70s found a place for it. Homes weren't sterile showcases. They were personal galleries full of color, texture, and creativity. A reflection of the people who lived inside. Right next to the family photos, there was often a wooden weather station, mounted proudly on the wall. It usually had 3 little dials, one for temperature, one for humidity, and one for barometric pressure. Sometimes the needles actually worked. Sometimes they were just for show. The fancy ones were made of real wood and brass, while the budget models used wood veneer and imitation gold trim. Either way, they looked serious, like something a ship captain might use before sailing out to sea. But really, they were just decorative. The truth is, hardly anyone knew what the barometer reading meant. Still, when guests came over, you could tap the glass and pretend you did. That was the charm of the 70s, even if you didn't need it. If it looked good on the wall, it belonged there. Next to the weather station, you might find one of the most iconic duos of 70s decor, the battery-powered wall clock with matching candle sconces. They came as a set, usually in fake antique wood with little green or gold accents. When new, they looked stylish and stately. When old, they looked, well, very 70s. The candles were almost always dark green, sometimes burgundy, and almost never lit. Most people didn't even realize the wax could melt. They were part of the scenery, not the utility. And if you took that clock down years later, you could still see the perfect outline of where it once hung. A tan wall surrounded by a halo of faded wallpaper. Those small, funny details, they're what makes 70s homes unforgettable. The 1970s were the golden age of do-it-yourself creativity. Craft kits were everywhere, and one of the biggest hits was string art. It started simple: a wooden board, a pattern drawn on it, a box of colorful thread, and a handful of nails. You'd hammer in the nails, wrap the thread around them in geometric patterns, and voila, you had art. Popular designs included sailboats, birds, and abstract shapes. Some even spelled out words like L-O-V-E or H-O-M-E. And the best part? When you were finished, you got to hang it up right there in the living room. It didn't matter if it wasn't perfect, it was yours. You could smell the wood and glue, feel the rough edges, and admire your creation as sunlight caught the shiny threads. It was the spirit of the 70s in one picture frame. Handmade, hopeful, and just a little bit funky. If string art was the warm-up act, macramé was the main event. By 1975, macramé was everywhere. Plant hangers, wall dividers, curtains, lampshades, even handbags. If you could tie a knot, you could make it in macramé. People gathered at churches, craft fairs, and community centers to learn how to do it. All you needed was some cotton cord, wooden beads, a dowel, and patience. The results were beautiful, natural, textured, and organic. Macramé fit perfectly with the 70s love of nature and handmade design. It softened the sharp lines of modern homes and added warmth to cold spaces. A macramé plant hanger in the kitchen window, with a pothos vine trailing down, was practically a requirement. And of course, there was one creation that stood above all others: the macramé owl. Every 70 seconds home seemed to have one. 2 round wooden eyes, a body made of knotted rope, and wings spread wide. It hung proudly in the living room or hallway, watching over the house like a fuzzy guardian. Some were made with beige cotton cord, others with earthy browns and oranges. If you were really fancy, yours might have wooden beads for claws or a tiny branch for it to perch on. It's funny. Decades later, those owls are now collector's items. People buy them in vintage shops, not for irony, but because they represent something we've lost. The feeling of making things with our own hands, just for the joy of it. That's what made 70s wall decor so special. Imperfection. Nothing looked mass-produced or cold. Everything had a story, a human touch. From the lopsided string art to the crooked owl, it all said the same thing. This is our home. We made it ourselves. Even the so-called tacky items now feel warm and familiar. Maybe that's because they remind us of simpler times, when creativity didn't need to be perfect, it just needed to be real. Who remembers having macramé in their house? Maybe a plant hanger, a wall divider, or even that famous owl watching over the living room. But if you really want to see how the 70s brought color, music, and personality into everyday life, you had to walk down the hallway, into the one room that truly belonged to the next generation, the teenager's bedroom. If the living room was the heart of the home, then the teenager's bedroom in the 1970s was its soul. It was the one space where parents had no control, a world ruled by music, color, and self-expression. The door stayed closed, the music stayed loud, and the smell of incense drifted down the hallway. Step inside, and you could almost feel the difference in the air. The lights were dim, the posters were bright, and for millions of kids growing up in the 70s, that small room represented something powerful: freedom. Nothing defined a 70s teen room quite like the blacklight poster. Under normal light, they looked like ordinary prints, but flip on that purple UV lamp, and suddenly they came alive. Neon colors glowed, planets shimmered. Rock stars looked almost divine. Posters of Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, and countless psychedelic designs covered the walls from corner to corner. Even the ceiling sometimes got a few. And the magic didn't stop there. Blacklight bulbs made white shirts glow, teeth sparkle, and everything else looked just a little surreal. It wasn't just decoration, it was an experience. Teenagers would save their allowance just to buy another one from the poster rack at Spencer's Gifts, tucked away in the back of the mall. You'd step inside that store and instantly feel like you'd entered another world. Part art exhibit, part time capsule. Blacklight posters weren't just cool, they were rebellion in glowing ink. Of course, not all posters glowed in the dark. Some became famous simply for who they showed. In 1976, actress Farrah Fawcett posed for a simple photo, sitting on a blanket, wearing a red one-piece swimsuit, smiling with that famous golden hair shining in the sun. That single image became the most iconic poster of the decade. It sold over 12 million copies. Teenage boys taped it to their walls, their doors, even the ceiling. It wasn't just a poster, it was a cultural phenomenon. What's funny is that many fathers secretly admired it too, while mothers just rolled their eyes, but everyone agreed. Farrah was the face of the 70s. The poster was everywhere, and in bedrooms, dorms, even garages. A reminder that pop culture could live right at home. It symbolized more than beauty. It was optimism, sunshine, and that easy California confidence that defined the decade. Lighting in a 70s teen room wasn't about seeing. It was about feeling. At the center of it all was the lava lamp, a hypnotic cylinder of color and motion. Those glowing blobs of wax floated up and down like a slow dance, creating an atmosphere somewhere between outer space and a dream. If you turned off the lights, put on some Fleetwood Mac or Pink Floyd, and stared at that lamp long enough, the world outside didn't matter anymore. Then there were bead curtains. Long strands of plastic or bamboo beads that divided the room or hung in doorways. They clicked and clacked as you walked through, giving that unmistakable 70s soundtrack to any entrance. And let's not forget posters, peace signs, and rainbow string lights that added their own energy. The mix of colors, lights, and music turned a simple bedroom into a personal universe. For many teens, their bedroom was the first place they truly felt independent. They could decorate it however they wanted. Maybe it was a shrine to rock and roll, or maybe it was a quiet space for journaling and dreaming about the future. It was where friendships were formed, letters were written, and secrets were kept. Where the radio played until late at night, sometimes under the pillow so parents wouldn't hear. Everything in that room reflected identity. It was messy, colorful, loud, and alive, just like the decade itself. Looking back, those bedrooms might seem over the top, full of neon, noise, and too many posters to count. But they were honest. They represented individuality at a time when the world was changing fast. It was the first generation that truly made their rooms an extension of who they were, not who their parents wanted them to be. And maybe that's why so many of us still smile when we see an old lava lamp flicker to life, or when a blacklight poster pops up in a vintage shop. Because for a moment, we're 16 again, and the world is glowing in electric blue and purple light. Did you ever have a blacklight poster or lava lamp in your room? Or know someone who did? From shag carpets to lava lamps, the 1970s gave us homes that felt alive. But underneath all that color and chaos was something deeper. A story about who we were and what we valued. Let's take a moment to remember why 1970s decor still matters today. When we look back at the home decor of the 1970s, it's easy to laugh at the shag carpets, the avocado appliances, and the wild wallpaper that climbed up to the ceiling. But behind all that color and chaos was something far more meaningful. The 1970s were a reaction, a pushback against conformity. After decades of straight lines, white walls, and predictable homes, people wanted warmth. They wanted life. Every hue, every fabric, every handmade craft was a way of saying, this is who we are. A 70s home wasn't built to impress strangers, it was built to comfort family. The furniture was soft, the lights were warm, and the colors wrapped around you like a favorite sweater. When you walked into a home back then, you could feel its story. The laughter in the living room, the smell of home-cooked meals, the sound of music floating from that big wooden stereo. Even the tacky things had love woven into them. the Afghan your grandmother crocheted, the macramé plant hanger your mom made on a rainy afternoon. They weren't just decorations, they were expressions of care. The 70s invited everyone to be bold. You didn't need to follow a catalog. You could mix and match, experiment, even make things by hand. Maybe your bathroom was pink and your kitchen was avocado, and that was perfectly fine. Because in that decade, difference was beautiful. Homes were messy, personal, and real. They felt lived in, not staged. That's what made them unforgettable. They reflected not only the era, but the people, dreamers, makers, and families who weren't afraid to show their true colors. When we talk about decor, we're really talking about connection. Those shag carpets and string art pieces remind us of childhood, of family gatherings, of voices now gone but still echoing in memory. Maybe that's why so many of us find comfort in the past. Not because it was perfect, but because it was ours. The 1970s taught us that home isn't just walls and furniture. It's the feeling of belonging, of love, of being part of something larger, a place, a time, a story. And back through memory lane brought back warm images of your childhood home. Please like and subscribe to join us as we continue rediscovering, preserving, and honoring the memories that made yesterday so special. See you in the next nostalgic journey.